Hey everyone, it's Tracy Martirana here from Holistic Wellness with Tracy. Thank you for joining me. Today I wanted to talk to you about making herbal butters. This is an easy way to bring herbal goodness into your kitchen. If you're growing herbs in your garden or you just have access to fresh herbs either at your grocery store or your farmer's market, adding herbs to butter is so simple, and it makes an ingredient that you can have in your fridge to bring all of the benefits of herbs into your diet. I'm going to make two different flavors today. So I start with some warmed butter. I've had 2 sticks of butter just sitting on my counter overnight and then throughout the morning. And since it's a nice warm day, the butter is nice and soft. This first one I'm going to make is going to be garlic and basil. Now, if I had fresh garlic in my kitchen, I would have used that. It's actually kind of odd that I didn't today, but I do have the next best thing, which is this homemade garlic powder that my husband makes just by dehydrating fresh garlic. So it is the next best thing. I added in almost a tablespoon, and then off camera I actually added a little bit more. So it's a good tablespoon of the garlic powder. If you're using garlic powder from your grocery store, you might want a little bit more, just because I find it tends to not be quite as potent as the homemade. And if I was using the fresh garlic, depending on how big the cloves are, I would probably use 2 to 3 cloves minced with a garlic press. It's early in the season, so my basil is just taking off. So I don't have a lot that I was able to harvest. I only have a handful of leaves, but it'll be enough to add a nice little bit of herbal flavor to this butter. When I make this again later in the season, when my basil is 2 feet high, then I will probably add almost twice this amount. I'm just chopping it up really fine, and then I will mix that into the butter as well. Almost all of the culinary herbs have some sort of benefit. Most of them have antibacterial, antiviral, and even antifungal properties. They're also very nutritious. There's a lot of vitamins and minerals, and they're full of all kinds of antioxidants. So just adding in fresh herbs into your meals just amps up the nutritional value of your meals. So that's what the garlic basil looks like. And the next one I'm going to make is just simply rosemary. I love to use a rosemary butter over like fried potatoes. So I'll chop up potatoes, saute them up in a cast iron pan, and then finish them with a dollop of this butter, a little sprinkle of salt and pepper, and I tell you, they are delicious. So again, I'm starting with another stick of butter, and then I have some fresh rosemary, and I also have some dried rosemary. Again, same thing as the basil. My rosemary is still pretty small because it's early in the season, so I didn't want to harvest a whole bunch of it. And I don't want this to be too overpoweringly rosemary flavored. Rosemary is a very strong flavor. So I'm just pulling off the soft needles off of my fresh rosemary, and I'll get that chopped up nice and fine. And for the quantity here, it really is going to matter a lot on the taste, how much rosemary you really enjoy. Because it's so strong, some people prefer just a little hint. Other people can, really enjoy it in like a stronger amount of flavor. So just add whatever smells good to you or what looks good to you. You can always add more later. And if you add too much and you decide it's too strong, you can always just soften up a little bit more butter and add a little more butter. I also want to point out just the color difference between the fresh rosemary and the dried rosemary. Now that dried rosemary is actually from my garden from last year, but just being a year old and dried out, it loses so much of that vibrant green, and there's so much goodness in the chlorophyll of the plants that fresh is always better, but sometimes dried just has to do. And now that I have these mixed up, I am just simply putting them into a couple small little mason jars that I have. If you decide that you would use a lot, you could make more of the butter, do 2 sticks, and then just double the amount of spices and put them in a larger container. I prefer to do smaller batches, use them up, and then make them fresh again in a few weeks. So this is my garlic basil. Don't waste any of it. It's so yummy. And then I'll get my rosemary in here. The garlic basil, I love to just spread on toast. It turns it into sort of a basil-y garlic bread. Once I get my jars filled, I'll just pop the tops on, and then I've made little labels so that I remember what flavors these are. You would think you could open it and smell it, but once that butter is cold, it's a little bit more difficult to know which one is which. And if you want more ideas on how to use these herbal butters, visit my website. I will have a link to the blog post in the description box. Thanks for joining me. As always, have a great day.